1939 and 1945. And that was the northern convoys, the convoys that resupplied Russia and with stores, with ammunition, with material, which allowed them in their fight against Nazism. It was so difficult because the Germans, to be honest, outnumbered us there. It was a difficult area to operate in as a warfare specialization, but it was particularly difficult with the weather. Now, I don't know how many of you have been up in that part of the world. I have been on a number of occasions, and you do not want to go back. And you certainly don't want to go back when people are firing torpedoes and guns at you. It's bad enough when you're doing it in peacetime. And both Ian and I have worked up there in the past, and it's pretty miserable. But this young man here obviously responded remarkably well, especially an engineer below decks having to deal with it. Now, he served in HMS Edinburgh. Now, this is where we have the common link, because I was one of the first warfare officers in HMS Edinburgh back in 1986. So I served in the follow-on ship from the ship that you served in 1942, and you tragically got sunk. I didn't. However, the link is actually a little bit more intricate than that, because when I was the young lieutenant on board the modern-day HMS Edinburgh, I was handed a bucket one day, a large bucket about this size, full of water, and in it was the bell from the HMS Edinburgh, which Peter had served in. And it sat in my cabin for a long time until we got back to harbour, because it had been presented to us by the diving team who had dived on the old HMS Edinburgh, and I presented it with my commanding officer to the museum in Edinburgh Castle, which I think it still sits there. So that bell, we tried it out, the clapper was still inside it, and it sounded as sweet then as it would have done back in 1942. So the link actually goes back a long way. So just like Ian wanted to be here because he's an engineer, I wanted to be here because likewise I had this link to the modern day HMS Edinburgh. So now the Navy has changed quite a lot, I suppose, in the last 60 or 70 years. Some things don't change, and I think one of the things I'd just like to make the point to this audience here is that the links between the Royal Navy and the United States Navy are as strong as they've ever been. I was back in the United Kingdom last week because our first Sea Lord, our Chief of Naval Operations, handed over to his successor, Admiral Stanhope, handed over to Admiral Zambellas. And your Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Greenert, made the trip, that's why I was there, made the trip to Southampton and on to Portsmouth for 16 hours. He flew all the way across the Atlantic, was there for the celebrations and the services, and then came straight back. Now that shows a degree of support and friendship, which I don't think any other navies in the world have. We also have things like Joint Strike Fighter, we're sharing missile technology, we share people. There, as I said, 150 people, a large number of them who work for American bosses. Quite an intimidating thing for some of them. What I should say, it's even more intimidating for the American young naval officers who go to Britain and work for the Royal Navy. That's quite a shock for them as well. But we've even got people flying your F-18 fighters. And the last thing I really want to mention, as far as this is concerned, is one of them in particular is in the Pacific just now on board USS Stennis. He goes by the name of Lothar. That's his nickname. If you remember Top Gun, all the pilots had a nickname, didn't they? What were they called? There was Goose and Maverick and people like that. Well, he's called Lothar. And I think it shows a great deal about the relationship that we have with the United States Navy, is that Lothar stands for Loser of the American Revolution. I don't think you would say that to any other Navy, but, and we take it with a thick skin and salt. But actually, me banging on about the relationship to the United States and the United Kingdom at the moment is not really why we're here. And somewhere in my pocket, I feel like a bit like the groom, the best man at a wedding, I here have the Arctic Star. Now this medal here, just hold it up just now before I actually present it. This has taken 70 years for Britain to acknowledge the effort and the support and the bravery shown by people like Peter. And our Prime Minister awarded the first of them about 2 weeks ago. And it gives me great pleasure to be able to present this one to Peter today. I've got another one to do in San Diego in a few weeks' time, I hope. but this is the first one I've done, and it really is a great, great privilege. And you should not underestimate what this means. The bravery, the hellish conditions, you know, the difficulty, the fear, and everything else that went on at that time. A terrible part of the world to try and operate, and people like Peter did this day in, day out, without a thought. So, on behalf of the United Kingdom, I'd like to present you with this medal. It's with our heartfelt desire that you wear it with pride alongside your other medals, and I wish you all the very best, sir.
Thank you.
Of course, you can't wear that all the time. I think it's only the Russians do that sort of thing. So one to put in your pocket is a little medal, but this one actually is from the British Naval Staff in Washington. And of course the rules are, if I ever meet you again and you don't have that in your pocket, you need to buy me the beers. Thank you, sir. And absolutely finally, and this is a personal presentation, I was given this by the senior American officer, this book, and I liked it so much I went out and bought a few others. And actually I think it's entirely appropriate that you have a copy of this. It's called The Atlantic, where you spent a lot of your time, and I'm sure that you and your family might enjoy reading some of the stories in here written by Simon Winchester, a well-known British author and journalist. So sir, I'll hold on to that as well, but that's for you, sir, and congratulations.
Oh, there it goes.
Just put that close. So, and that's your medal. I'll not take that away from you just now.
Dan, would you like a chair? The rest of us have one. You want your chair?
Now, we take this. Unfortunately, you need to get it mounted now, but that's